All right, guys, let's go. Oh, okay, that's not a good place to be. Okay, let me see real quick. A lot of stuff is happening around us. Okay, it's gonna be a long one today. I got home a little bit early than usual, and since I haven't been up for a while, so I'm thinking, oh, you know what? Let's do another live stream, huh? Just to talk to my people real quick. But okay, let me put up this real quick. I will be right back. You might hear me a little bit here. Live stream, huh? All right, sorry there. I'm trying to put this chat up over here. I'm sure people would pop by in a minute, but oops, what just happened there? Okay, I think we are okay. Let me put this out. I think I'm in. All right, let's go, you guys. I'm trying to set the show up. I mean, this is the best show on earth. I feel, I'm feeling myself today. So I might talk smack a little bit here. So just be ready for that. I typically very tame, a tame person, but today is the day. If you haven't hear it in my tone already. Okay, so let's see. Okay, hold on, let me. All right, so let's talk about the price action. Okay, let me bring you back in here. All right, hello, Kai. I hope I say your name right, but Kai Supreme. Sharon, good evening, good evening. Hope you're doing well today. But anyway, so let's talk about the price action. Not much going on, you guys. Like the volume is so dry, but this is truly the tipping point, right? Because we have 5 more days until the earnings. Technically only 3 trading days because it's going to be tomorrow, it's going to be Friday, Monday, and then Tuesday. Okay, so whether they're going to keep the price here or draw it down a little bit lower just to scare more people after earnings, because I'm really prepared for that, honestly, you guys, because again, they could do stuff like that too. Even if the earning is like crushing everything, right? They could still bring it down. So don't underestimate them quite yet, because perhaps again, they have to. They short this company because they have to. It's not like, it's based on any fundamental anymore, because again, they've been in it so deep that they have to do a lot of, manipulation. And again, algorithm based type thing. What I'm saying is that eventually they're going to have to bring it up, okay? Anytime they do stuff like this, it's all psychological. So you have to like prepare yourself for the worst and get to reap the benefit later, okay? Now, I am so excited for the earnings, obviously. I am very, curious about the PSA and how much we are able to bring it in, okay? Because the last time when we were like reporting the last earnings, the PSA part was not in it completely, right? So it was just like being launched, and so it wasn't, in my opinion anyway, but based on the timeline of when PSA graded card being launched, I feel like it wasn't in the report at the time. But even then, we still come up with 6 cents in profit in terms of earnings per share. Okay. So with this one, we have a full quarter of PSA being out there, people creating and all that stuff. And we just saw the landmark, milestone of over, oh no, just a little bit under 1 million subscription or submission, sorry. And so that's encouraging, right? Because it's not even less than a year, we already have less than 1 million subscription already, a submission, sorry. So if you were to do the math, right, let's say how much did they get a pop of $15.90, right? $15.90. That's the low ball, right? Because that's the cheapest. So let's just assume everybody, submit at the lowest level. That's $15 million already. Now, whether it's full quarter or per quarter or in the last 2 quarters, that's still a massive amount of revenue, okay? Of course, it's revenue because we don't know how much profit margin is going to be based on the service base type thing. So that's remain to be seen, right? On the report itself, if you just calculate 30% of profit margin, I mean, that's a lot of money, like $15 million a quarter. It's still a lot of money, right? Just on that business alone. I mean, on the service part of things. So, of course, that's gonna only continue to grow, you guys. Like when you have stuff like this, milestone after milestone. The first million already in the less than 6 months of launching this. Like, come on. I mean, a lot. Hey, Michael, what's up? Welcome to the chat. So I'm very excited to see what the PSA portion of it gonna bring us. Of course, for all of it, but mainly I wanted to see how the PSA is gonna bring us to the promised land. Okay. Of course, that's the growth part, right? And new and exciting, and of course, hopefully it covers the software sell loss or decline or whatever, and shut these people up, right? And of course, they're gonna find other ways to to be negative about this company, no matter what. So just be aware of that. Just remember who owns the media, who owns the article being written about this company. Of course, I saw recently news. I forgot what the articles was saying that GME earnings is expected to be a disappointing number because of the sales and all that stuff. The same bullcrap that they're talking about, but we know what this company has been doing. So I'm hoping that people who click on this and don't know anything about GameStop don't listen to these type of news. But anyway, I mean, come with their own conclusion. Of course, if you're bearish on this company, there's nothing that I could say for you to change your mind, honestly, because you already make up your mind already. So it's for people who haven't, done any research on their own. I implore you to do some, at least look at the balance sheets, right? When they're telling you something about how it should be this, it should be that, really, 8 cents per share. Even though last year, the same quarter, they were able to make 22 cents per share. And then with the store closure and all that stuff, I feel like that's a bit low, But who knows? Perhaps they know some magic number that we don't, right? They know some magic, backdoor data analyst somewhere where they could read everything that GameStop was able to sell. So who knows, or perhaps they're doing some AI model, that give them that estimate. I truly don't understand how these people come up with these estimates, honestly, you know. But again, sometimes it's hit and miss, right? They don't typically get it right all the time. So, sorry, guys. I know I'm drinking coffee right now. I love drinking coffee at all time of the day. Okay. Okay. So let's look at the price real quick. I know everybody's here. Asa, all right. Hello. Anyway, so I know I'm drawing 3 distinct lines over here. Just a very simple TA over here. Okay, nothing fancy. There's no indicator. There's nothing. Okay, so a simple support and resistance that I could see with my own limitation of TA over here. So is this the level in which time to buy, right? Loading. And it seems like there's a coiling effect here. Okay. So tomorrow, I wonder where's max pain is. Hold on, let me take a look at it real quick. Because max pain usually tells you when, at what price level it's gonna end up at. So, okay, let me see. Hi, Jesus, what's up? Okay. Let's see. I hope everybody's doing well today. It's Thursday for sure. Tomorrow is Friday. So again, you see that skewed, makes no it makes no sense. And again, this is skewed towards it's a call skewed for sure. Right? They don't want, again, this is why they have to short it. When I use that term, they have to short it. It's because of this type of thing, because people are usually betting it to the upside, okay? And so any type of price improvement could really, gamma ram this thing, And institution sees this, everybody sees this, and it only take one rogue whale, okay? And we know one already in this stock. That typically is on retail side. We know that. It only takes those one rogue, whale who knows exactly what they do to cascade this thing and set this thing on a run, right? And again, that's why those violence runs and all that stuff, it's so possible, you guys. I'm telling you. But again, it's just very, very tough to time it. One whale may not be able to do this thing. Perhaps it's going to take a lot of whales out there if they wanted to, right? But again, they have to, weigh the risk and reward, whether they're going to be able to make a lot of money or not. I'm talking about people who are traders, okay? I'm not talking about the investor. But on top of that, though, you have, a lot of activity on the other side too, where Ryan Cohen has been posting picture with a lot of oh my goodness, Sultan guy, from the Qatar. Okay, so there's something is brewing for sure, and then now you just have this idea of tokenization. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. So it's a massive opportunity here that I'm very excited. Of course, I'm from the crypto world, so crypto and GME, and it seems like my most favorite things to talk about. And of course, seeing them kind of merging together to form something amazing in the future. Of course, that's going to be one of the greatest thing to see for myself anyway. But of course, at the moment, it seems so early. People are not excited about it. And of course, this is the opportunity, right? When you see it's so quiet, and it's like nothing's going on, this is the time to buy. This is the time to load it up because no one pay attention to it, you guys. think about it. And at $23, can you imagine? Like, before it runs, people were like, oh, I wish I got it at $23, right? Remember, when it before it goes up to 80, people were like, oh, I wish, right? People are gonna wish still. Like, I bet you anything when it run the next I don't know if it's the next year, the next month, next coming quarters, people are gonna always wish, like, oh, I wish I got it that price. Oh, I wish I got it this price, right? And then hopefully it's just gonna keep raising the floor. But again, like, if you're an investor in this company, I'm telling you, the upside is oh man. Anyway, maybe I'm just way too early. Okay. Way too early, way too optimistic about this company. So do your own research. Of course, I'm biased. I'm always biased towards this company and fully admit that. Okay. And you could say that I'm invest based on hope. Okay, sure. If you think that, all right. If that stuff makes you happy, it's okay. Stay on the sideline, watch what happened, and you'll see it. And I implore you, when it runs, don't be tempted to buy. Okay? The worst thing that you could do is buy at the top, and then you're going to be coming back crying. It's like, oh, I thought it's going to go to this price and this price. Well, you haven't seen anything yet, so keep on holding. They call it HODL, in the crypto world, hold on to dear life and stuff like that. So yes, any asset that you buy, if you are convicted in what you have, think about it, you are, oh, you didn't miss much. So awaken sheep. But yeah, appreciate you. Let's see. Why am I going on tangent? So tomorrow, of course, we need to go up to 24. If we go up to 24, 16,000 contracts going to be in the money. And of course, there's more here. I wonder if there's any new bets. But yeah, so see this skewed over 100,000 call option is out of the money. I don't think it's gonna go into the money until I think 4, right? April 4. Am I looking at the right thing? But yeah, there's no open interest here, so I don't see. But what's encouraging is that April 4th, $25 a share. So it's going higher. Next week it's 24. So again, these type of thing could turn on a dime. People gonna coming in because next week is going to be the earnings. Perhaps again, retail got burned the last time, and now they're less likely to bet, right? And this is usually the capitulation time. Okay, when retail are so beaten down and down in the trots, like it's never gonna happen. I guarantee you. Let me stop myself from saying guarantee, because I want to be careful. Okay, but typically that's what happened when retail are like at the lowest morale whatsoever. And again, this is why when Warren Buffett is telling you, and he's been in the market for a long time, right? And of course, he has the time and patience and the money to wait for the next big opportunity. And so, but the good rule of thumb is that buy when there's blood in the street, even though it is your own blood type thing, right? It's true, because then well, unless you know what you're buying into, right? Hopefully, when you buy into something, you research, a lot out of it, right? You know exactly what you buying into, right? So that's number one important thing. And then number two is buy whenever you can, right? And don't over leverage yourself type thing. So do the responsible thing. in order to capture, the reward later on. I hope I drive that point home and people, really listen to that. But I mean, again, if you are so bogged down by the price, obviously it's just going to drain you out, and then you're less likely to benefit from the run up. Okay. It's so simple, but it's very difficult too. I understand. Like, I've held this stock for a while, so I know the ups and downs. But the reason being is that I got my training from crypto. So crypto goes swing high up, up one day, 50% up, and then down another 60%, and then rip back up the next day, right? So I'm used to that type of volatility, honestly. So this is a walk in the park for me when it comes to holding on to the shares. Now, with call option, I still have my April call, April 17. So I add one more on the 4th. Again, just one call, you guys. Like, I'm not even joking. I think I bought this one right here, and I pay $45 at some point. So wait, no, I pay $50. So that's my cost base for this contract. So one lonely contract, that's all. Just in case, I go wild and I would make gazillions of dollars. So that's what I'm hoping. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so let me see. Max Pain. Yeah, so 23.50. So I would not be surprised if tomorrow it closed somewhere around there. Okay, so we're already there, at 23.50. So again, when you look at the trading, right, from day to day, volume is really low today. It's coiling for sure, and perhaps they're setting up to do something. Okay, so understand where you're at, but also too, because the volume is so low, they could smack it down as well, just as easily. As an investor, obviously, this is the best case scenario for an investor if you want to establish a position. As an option trader, obviously, option has creeping up quite a bit because of the IV, right? IV is now, at 90, right? 90%, as I check. Of course, it's fluctuate based on, when you bought it. So just be aware of that. They could crush that IV before earnings on Monday. So you might, that $50 contract may be worth less, by the time Monday hits. So there's a lot of fear in the market still because of the tariffs. So just be aware of that as well. They will use every excuse, you guys, to bring the price down. Even like crypto, like today, there's a lot of good news surrounding crypto, but still crypto went down. And I really think that there's a lot of manipulation in that. And I've seen this time and time and time again. Anytime there's good news, it seems to be, like they bring the price intentionally down so that, whoever wants to accumulate at a lower price. And typically when big, funds out there, they're changing their minds about something, security or any type of asset whatsoever, they typically bring the price down so that it's low enough for them to scoop up at a very low price. Typically, they don't want to buy at a high price, you guys. And again, this is where the smart money and dumb money terms come from, is that, time immemorial, it seems as though retail, if you're if you're not smart, obviously you're not going to be able to win the game. And the game is to understand the psychology of trading, and you might be able to kind of time it right? But again, nobody could time it right, unless you are the institution themselves. But even then, it rely on, misleading people, misdirecting people, and how many people could be misdirected. And so, remember, when Ken Griffin tells you that, the role of the market maker is to, front the liquidity first and then find the buyer later. That's the role switch. Okay, that's not supposed to be happening because the role of a market maker should be to match up the buy and sell order no matter what. You don't then provide the liquidity in between to do that. No, because when you provide the liquidity in between, you are hoping that somebody will take on the risk, the risk from you or the reward from you. And you won't make a move until that happens. So that's why you see the price fixing that you see on the screen right now. It's not the true price of GameStop at the moment, because market maker are able to do this at will. And again, if market has integrity, it shouldn't work that way at all. Like I said, it's not a free market. But that's to say, though, at some point they're going to have to de-risk their portfolio because they don't want to be stuck here either. Okay, so to me, the reward part is for somebody who are so patient that they don't care what's happening in this company and it just holds forever until the end of time. Until they give in, right? Honestly. So, but again, whether retail is able to withstand all that, I don't know. But there's always new investor coming in, obviously, new eyes, new interests. And, as long as the company's doing well on the balance sheet side, you would always have people who are interested in, right? New people coming in all the time. So like Morenz was saying, like new gamer was born every day, new investor were born every day as well. So the same exact thing. Let's see. I think that's all I have, you guys. Okay, that's the show. Bye. No, kidding. All right, so let's talk about this real quick because this is cool, right? We've always kind of like draw the correlation between GameStop and Berkshire Hathaway. Okay, so they just came up with this, similar. Are we stretching? I don't think so. I mean, look at this similarity. Okay, so we have a lot of that. Perhaps again, this is the simplicity of our leader. Okay, as a CEO, leader, board leader, what board leader? What the heck? Oh my goodness, board of director. Goodness. So when you have those type of leader who's kind of try to simplify things, right? So that makes it easier for investor to come in. This is perhaps what the PR people were trying to kind of associate, right? And again, this is a good association. Okay, it means it's projects strength, stability. Okay, long-term mindset, way of thinking, investing in the company, running the company. Try to mimic that is a good thing in my opinion. Okay. And not only that though, because there's a lot of reference from the Sultan. Let me see if I could find that guy. Sultan. I feel like I have his. Okay, let me come back real quick. I feel like consultant. Yes, I got him. Okay. So, oh, goodness. Okay. So with this gentleman here, of course I know. I'm sure you guys seen him around. But he did a respond. Maybe I don't have it here. Oh, right here. So it's time for the next Berkshire Hathaway 1 trillion next gen. Okay. $1 trillion company. Okay. And then subsequently it was tweeting about Trump, with Trump blessing, it's time for the US to be the leader of tokenized asset, right? Elon Musk, of course, try to get him to tokenize X on the blockchain. Again, tokenization, obviously, he didn't mention blockchain or anything like that, but that narrative has been, around with XRP being the, bringing the tokenization to the rest of the world. Of course, like tokenization kind of alluded to blockchain anyway. It's like an associative thing, because like without blockchain, how can you tokenize anything, right? So that's the idea. Even though he doesn't mention like blockchain in general, I think that's what he meant by that. Now, and then he tweeted another time where he was like, who can tokenize GME stock and make it accessible to global investor? If this could be achieved, you guys, this is huge. It's huge, because now you have, people, again, the tokenization part is a growth factor in and of itself already, because of the popularity of GameStop. Okay, what happened, memes or whatever. Again, whether it's a meme stock or not, that's up to you to decide. Of course, look at the balance sheets myself. I don't think that it's a meme stock. It's just a stock that has massive potential, but just the reputation alone, coming into the blockchain, coming to the, the crypto world. And if they could successfully tokenize it on the blockchain as an official GameStop, thing, and not some random, people who are just making the token and try to steal, the likeliness of the company to get their own gains. But again, I'm talking about the real legitimate thing here. It will give a lot of people access, because people all around the world really understand this, but sometimes they don't have access to buying GameStop, okay, as the stock. It's always going through the third party, and that third party is the one that shares that, pool of liquidity to drive the price down. Okay, again, I don't have evidence for that, but again, I'm just saying that it could be used as that. You've heard of like a certificate of deposit, how they were creating, shares out of thin air, creating offshore account, right, in order to kind of shell those representation of GameStop shares overseas somewhere, right? It's hidden somewhere. But because it's overseas, they don't get the investor protection that we do here in the state, even though, we technically don't have protection, but at least we got the real thing here. In terms of like trading wise. But anyway, so I'm just like thinking about this in a broader sense. Okay, whether they're thinking about doing that or not, it's very exciting. Now, if they do this on Loopring, oh my god, like it's gonna be crazy too. So Loopring, they already have a partnership with Loopring. Whether it's partnership or just again, what is it? Symbol, but oh my god, what is the term? like mutually beneficial to be in the group, right? So Lubring and tokenization of stocks, it's still massive. But what I would love them to do though is tokenize on the XRP ledger, because again, in that sense, you could allow people to trade faster, cheaper, and more reliable in that sense. But it's really, again, depends on who could build it. And again, this is why he's probably like, whoever could build the tokenization is going to be rich, so going to be able to solve this problem here. It's a $1 trillion company, next problem, okay? Value that could be captured. Of course, people are going to want to salivate, to tokenize GME in that sense. And again, oh my God, you guys, when the company is doing well, people are going to flock in to buy into your company. So you don't really need to do much. All you have to do is just understand the opportunity that you have right now, with this investment. Obviously, okay, I'm biased. I know I'm going to be thinking about this in, rosing in the best case scenario. But even the worst case scenario, what do you think is going to happen to GameStop? I don't think anything could happen to it, right? Let's say they could make $100 million. Even if they're burning $100 million every year from now on, how much do you think they have to burn? Right? I mean, even if they burn, what? $200 million a year from now on because of the economy, right? They would be able to survive a long time. Because let's say they put it into the marketable security, right? They're still able to burn $250 million a year, and that money would still be there. That $5 billion or $4.6 billion would still be there, because that money comes from interest. Okay, so it's impossible for them to do that. And so that's the worst case scenario, right? In my opinion, obviously. Well, the worst case scenario is Ryan Cohen just blow up that $4 billion in some company that doesn't make money, or some instrument that go to zero in a minute, in a year, right? Which is like unimaginable, but could it be possible? Sure. But it's slim, right? It's very slim, the chance of that happening. And so again, this is why I'm like, you can't lose. You cannot lose in this company. Well, you can lose if you bet on call option, that's for sure, because it expire. Again, that's why share is a lot better. So understand that too, right? I think most people who buy into call option doesn't understand it, and that when they lose money, right, they blame it on GME. That's why there's such hatred about this company. I'm telling you, the hate comes from people who lost money betting on call option for this company. So it has nothing to do with leadership who's trying to do best for this company whatsoever. So again, you have a lot of relationship with like fund managers and, a real investor over here, and how many of these people in his circle can he influence, perhaps his friend, just because he invests in GME, it's like, okay, I'll put, $100,000 each year. Right? Let me see what will happen. And stuff like that will continue to happen among these people in the circle of billionaires over here. Okay. So, in my opinion, GME is in good hands. I don't worry about it whatsoever. Even with the consumer price coming down, it really doesn't. See, he mentioned it by name. Yeah, for sure. So something is happening, you guys, really. I'm very excited for that. Yeah. Anyway, so with that, and of course he met with Trump and all that stuff. So the real question is whether it's going to be. It seems like he is alluding that GME is going to be the Berkshire Hathaway, the next generation Berkshire Hathaway. It's clear. I mean, it's pretty insane, right? So that's the direction. So buckle up. It's gonna be the next best thing that you could ever hold in your life, in my opinion. Obviously, do your own research. I always say that. Okay, so let's see. What else? I don't have much. What was my title? Oh, I totally blanked out. I feel like I touched on most of what I was gonna say, but I know I wanted to stay a little bit longer. So let's listen in to this particular. This is Ripple, okay, XRP, all that stuff. Of course, I invest in this. Very biased in that too. Do your own research. Okay. I believe in this token here because I feel like the ledger is it's a good one to tokenize the whole world in, and you know these CEO of Ripple have been talking about tokenization for a long time, but for Ripple right now they're trying to solve a payment issue, okay, that the bank couldn't solve, like the big banks out there, because they're not incentivized to innovate because they have the monopoly for so long already, okay? And so that's why Ripple has been fighting to get the efficiency into the banking system for a long time. The battle between the SEC and Ripple, I feel like it was a picking winner and loser by the SEC at the time, because it was Jay Clayton. Jay Clayton was the one that filed a lawsuit on his way out. But then Gary Gensler continued the fight, even though it was unfair, because they didn't go after Ethereum, right? And then what did you know? Jay Clayton went to Ethereum-based, crypto blockchain, firm right after he left the SEC. So there's a revolving door for sure that favored ETH and Bitcoin, okay? But yet, they were kind of going after Ripple at the time. And what most people don't realize is that Ripple was about to take over Ethereum at that moment in time, because again, it was just better, a better kind of technology, you could say, to transfer value cheap, fast, and reliably. So with the lawsuit, of course, people were just so scared, and that's why again the chain didn't get enough attention. People were scared away from it. Therefore, nobody was willing to build on it, okay? Because they're there to make money. Obviously, they're there to for their own success. So I don't blame them. I blame on the SEC, because the SEC was kind of doing things to benefit themselves. They don't do things to benefit the public here. But in my opinion, Ripple has been fighting for the right reason. So that's why I kind of stick with Ripple, not the company, but the XRP token, because I feel like, okay, there's something fishy here. Why are they going after Ripple and not Ethereum? Because Ethereum was the one that has ICO too. What they call it, ICO, initial coin offering. At the time, it's like a play on IPO, right? So Vitalik sold ETH to this, hedge fund and all that stuff, to raise money. And that's the definition of security, because subsequently you could see the price of Ethereum being promoted, and of course, because they have the green light on the SEC part, they feel like, okay, they could build safely. People who want to build on things, right? And again, it's self-serving for them too, but the innovator, they build on ETH. That's why you see all those, NFT, you see all those, tokens that just pop out of nowhere that is based on Ethereum. Even Loopring, right, is based on Ethereum. So understand that pathway, and then you'll see how it evolved into right now. I think the problem with Ethereum right now is the fact that they cannot scale, right? It's hard for them to scale because it's becoming so expensive per transaction. And that defeats the purpose of what blockchain is trying to solve, is cheap and fast and reliable. And that's why they moved to proof of stake and all that stuff, in order to kind of mitigate the fee on every time you transfer your value from wallet to wallet, okay? Because you need ETH. Even with Loopring, yes, it's a layer 2. Then you have to understand, okay, you have to move your layer. Like, again, very technically intensive. And, when you're trying to explain this to the customer who doesn't know anything about blockchain, they don't care about how you get the value from point A to point B. As long as they get it quick and fast and easily accessible, they don't care. So that's the whole point. It's like, eventually people are going to use the most efficient chain, fast, easy, and effective, right? And so that's why Ripple was thought as a threat to Ethereum. And because these people invest in Ethereum, of course, they're going to come after XRP, right? And so, yeah, that's the battle. But now it seems like it comes to an end. So it seems so, again, now the problem is, it's like, oh, why is the price down? Well, I mean, I don't know why it's down. Take that as an opportunity. To me, you have a green light right now to build on Ripple. And whoever wants to build on Ripple or on the blockchain, the XRP, they could do that. It's open source, right? So technically, if GME feel inclined to build on XRP Ledger to build a NFT marketplace instead of, on Loopring, but they could do that on simultaneously too. They don't have to, do either or. But if they could figure out the back door of, okay, let's use XRP instead of using ETH, I think it's going to make the customer very happy because, like I said, you don't care where you transfer your NFT to, as long as you got your NFT, right? You feel happy already. So, and then you could store your NFT on any chain that you want to. So they're building on it for sure. It's still very early. So right now they're just focusing on stablecoin, right? Stablecoin. And then the next step would be tokenization, which is, stocks, bonds, whatever. And then, Ripple is focusing on real-time payments right now. So it's being built for sure. But I think within the next 4 years, you're going to see a totally different world, in terms of like transferring value from place to place. And blockchain, it's at the forefront of it for sure. And especially XRP. I mean, when the president of the United States mentioned XRP by name, you don't want to miss it. At the very least, learn about it. Like, I mean, it's so... sometimes when I talk to people at work, I'm like, why do you think he mentioned that? Just to scam you, or just to, I feel like, okay, if it's a scam, you better know it is a scam, right? So look into it. Is it a scam? Or does it have the value, that could really, bring us out of this massive amount of debt? Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Because, when you think about the treasury market, how many trillions do you think is there? And so in order to mint on any type of chain there, if XRP ledger or any ledger at all, I mean, I'm sure, Ethereum's going to take part in that too. But if they're successful at just capturing, 1% of $10 trillion, which is, that's their total addressable market that they were trying to achieve, that's $1 trillion. Okay, no, it's $100 billion. Sorry, 1% of 10 trillion. Yeah, that's 100 billion. And so if they could do 1%, they could do 10%, which is $1 whole trillion. So it's coming for sure. It's trillion and quadrillion dollars too, because they were thinking about the derivative market as well, the option, the whatever, the derivative of the derivative, right? Typically you could do that. If it's so easy to tokenize the world here, the floodgate is coming, you guys. So again, whether GME is only addressing the NFT part of it, that's still a good place to be as well, because then you could corner that collectible universe type thing. And that's all you need, You start with just collectible and then do it well so that people could really recognize it. Take a couple years to try to get it right? And then the next is just sailing from there. The difficult part is to get people to be excited about it, right? And so with GME as a investor in this company, obviously, we were trying to be as aware of it as possible. So anything that GME is getting into, of course, you have a huge following already, okay? Because of that hatred and love for the company. Both of them is still good for the company as a topic of discussion, because the more controversial, the better type thing. So because you get both sides to be angry at each other, right? It's crazy. But anyway, let me play this interview here, and I'll stop in the middle if anything I want to address. So.
This has been a long battle. How much certainty does this provide? Is the entire case over?
So this provides a lot of certainty for Ripple, for frankly me personally, because the SEC had sued me. The SEC has abandoned their appeal. And so they filed suit in December of 2020. We won on the key parts of the case in the summer of 23. Judge Torres made a ruling that XRP in and of itself was not a security. That's almost a verbatim quote. The SEC filed an appeal about 8 months ago, and what they've now agreed is that they're going to drop that appeal. We still have a cross appeal pending, and so we go from being defendant really to plaintiff. So we now are in the driver's seat to determine how we want to proceed.
Are you dropping it?
We're going to see. It feels a lot better to be on the offense than the defense. 4 years, we spent over $150 million defending that case. Not just for Ripple, but for the whole industry. I think it was really important that this SEC, the Gensler SEC, was really trying to bully and continue lawfare, filing lawsuits and lawsuits and lawsuits against crypto companies. That's over now, and I think that's great for the U.S. crypto industry and, frankly, great for crypto at large.
I mean, to that end, if you're looking at a new SEC, why not drop the case at this point? Why not clear the water? Well,
that certainly is an option. I mean, again, it's clear the SEC has said, I think in retrospect, never would have brought this case. The judge did rule in certain instances back in 2015 and 2016, some XRP sales that we sold to accredited investors, to institutions, that those had constituted a security. And so there was a $125 million fine that's sitting in escrow. We wouldn't mind having that back. That's on the table. And I think there's some nuances to how this will play out. But it was important for us, for really the whole XRP community, for them to know that the case is over. For all intents and purposes, the case is over. The SEC is no longer pursuing
But
this.
to that end, to your point here, the court decision had ordered you to pay a $125 million civil penalty for exactly what you're talking about. Is that $125 million paid? Is what you're saying that's still up for dispute?
Yeah. Well, it's not in dispute. I mean, that's sitting in an escrow, and depending upon whether or not we decide to continue with our appeal, we could walk away and the whole thing would be done. On the other hand, when you have a case where there were no investor harm, no investors lost any money, you're kind of like, wait, like, why are we here? And it really goes back to Gary Gensler fighting a fight that was about power grab, that was about overreach of the bureaucracy to try to take a new industry. That what we're seeing now happen in Washington is smart legislation will come forward. You're seeing that happen with stable coins in real time. And I think you'll have a market structure bill, is what it's described as, to provide clarity and rules for the SEC and CFTC.
We will look at the bigger picture. Right. We're going to have you for a little while this morning. But do you think that part of this means fighting it till the very end to make sure even that part of uncertainty around being sold to certain investors classifies as a security? Is that what you are fighting for ultimately at this point?
Well, I mean, at this point, all we're fighting for is, do we want to fight to get the $125 million back? Look, I'll be honest, would I have walked away from that before they appealed, before President Trump put Paul Atkins and Scott Bessent and David Sachs as critical, key, very smart leaders in this industry to bring this industry back on shore?
That's important though, because like you have a lot of pro-crypto people in the White House right now. So of course that is where the direction is going to be leaned towards. Okay. Now, whether they're smart enough to realize now that we cannot grow, $36 trillion in the next, 30 years. Like, how long do you think it's going to take to grow in that massive amount of money? And typically people don't realize how much $1 trillion is. It's a lot. Like, even $1 billion is a lot of money. And people are becoming accustomed to see this money. And now you hear about quadrillions of dollars here, right? So the massive amount of money out there are there in the ether somewhere. It need to be, again, come into the chain. And so, because we don't realize where, the derivative market is. Okay. That's where the money is. When people are seeing like, $4 billion, and that's why people are like, scoffing at $4 billion and not salivate at it, it's because we grow accustomed to like, it's $1 trillion now. $1 billion company used to be a unicorn, you guys. Have you ever remember that? Like 10, 15 years ago, I bet, but now it's like, it's just like a small cap. $1 billion company is a small cap. It's ridiculous, right? But I think, again, all of the money is going to come to the chain, and that's why when people are talking about $10,000 per XRP, will it goes there? Well, if everything is being tokenized in XRP, of course, right? But the world doesn't work that way. I'm sure it's going to happen slowly. It will happen one day in the future. I just don't know when, right? It depends on how many people could quickly onboard onto the chain and adopt the technology. Thankfully, we have 20 years already worth of this industry being around. So people are, I guess, like, they understand what it is, okay, roughly, okay, and people who are a builder in that space is going to be feeling very comfortable doing that in that space. And of course, with Ripple and all that stuff, they're payment provider, and of course, for the last 4 years, or even the existence of Ripple Lab as a company existent, they've been honing on their craft to make this happen, okay, in the payment rail. And what's scary to me is the tokenized and programmable money that eventually you're going to be like, okay, you could only spend this much and at this time. If you don't spend it, it's going to expire. So if you subscribe to that type of, system, it's hard to get out of it. So that's why it's imperative for the America of the world out there to promote free speech, okay? Freedom to transact with whoever they want, as long as you're not harming anyone to commit crime or whatever, okay? And so it's a dystopia in the future, I feel. But again, the custodian of our freedom is ourselves. So be aware of that. That's why, again, elevate the right people, right? What can we do? Sometimes I feel like it's a battle of good and evil over here to try to see, okay, who could convince people to do bad things more than to do good things. And because we're so, sheeple, people are just following each other. We don't typically have a critical thinking of our own to really have the power of discernment here. So, just be careful. I don't know why I go off to that tangent, but it's just the future of digital currency that I am afraid of. But currently, of course, it's not here yet. But I think it's going to be sooner than we think. Within 10, 15 years, you're going to see, certain things being pushed to you as a freedom and all that stuff. And if you fall into that, you better do your own research before putting yourself in that situation. And of course, you're going to have a choice, right? You're going to feel like you have a choice, overwhelmed with all the data, with all the information. And so, that's the downfall of the internet, right? There's a lot of information out there. Unless you're really obsessed with something, you're not going to be able to kind of like, you have a sense of like, too overwhelming. I don't want to know anymore. I just want to do this and this, right? Just as long as you tell me that I could return 2% a year, I'm happy. Okay. So that type of thing. And again, there's a sense of complacency whenever you have a lot of money already. That's why these hedge fund people are falling into a trap right now, where they just short GameStop willy-nilly without knowing what GameStop is, right? Because their friend tells them to do so. And so there's a sense of that too. The complacency comes everywhere. I bet you anything, if you make $100 million from this right now, you would feel like, okay, I don't have to work anymore, right? So that's human nature for sure. But to get away with that, obviously, make sure that you're diverting your capital to the right company. Okay. So that's my ask. Okay. Or the right tokens. Okay. Hopefully that you're going to bring yourself to financial freedom. Okay. But anyway, so why am I going to that tangent? It's because I can. Thank you. I'm hoping I'm not losing anyone yet. Okay. I'm telling you, I'm gonna be here for a while, so hopefully you do well. Let me see. I think I'm reaching an hour mark already. Typically, I could go like 3 hours without like feeling pooped out. So I might stay for 2 more, but we'll see.
I would have walked away. Now you look at that and you're like, this case in this SEC never would have been brought. And so where we find ourselves is great. There's a clear legal victory to say XRP is not a security. That was good for the industry. But there's pieces of it that we think could be kind of cleaned up. And the question is, do we want to fight that fight, or can we come to an agreement with the SEC to drop everything?
The whole idea that this wouldn't have been brought under this SEC, have you had that specific discussion with Paul Atkins and with David Sachs?
Well, Paul Atkins hasn't yet been confirmed. He's a very knowledgeable guy about this industry and has been for a long time. But I've had conversations. I won't comment on specifics with certainly, I think David Sachs would agree that this is a case that didn't make a lot of sense in the beginning. Again, there was no investor harm. This was about Gary Gensler waging a war against this industry.
You know, it's interesting. I want to also point out that the affiliated token, of course, XRP, has been up roughly 14%, now about 13% in the last 24 hours. You know, one thing a lot of people had looked at, we're thinking a lot about how the administration is handling crypto assets, particularly outside of Bitcoin. Why do you think XRP wasn't specifically named in the executive order for the digital asset stockpile?
Well, so XRP was named by the president on Truth Social. He posted something saying that there should be other tokens, that there's going to be a Bitcoin strategic reserve and then a crypto stockpile that would include things like XRP.
But days later, the executive order didn't include it. Why was that?
I don't know what specifically was in the executive order. My understanding is there's going to be a Bitcoin strategic reserve. There'll be a crypto stockpile representing other cryptos. And I would expect that will include XRP. Look, at the end of the day, I think the stark contrast is in the Biden administration, we couldn't get a meeting with people at the White House. Now we're welcomed into the White House. And that's just a massive change. I think we want this industry to thrive in the United States. We don't want to push it offshore where you have fewer regulations.
I think the reason I keep pushing you too is because I think now it's widely accepted that this is a pro-crypto administration. But the details, that is what's causing an overhang, the uncertainty of the details. So to the extent you have confidence, right, about XRP being in that stockpile or otherwise getting more support for an ETF, for example, where does that confidence come from and what kind of timeline do you see it happening on?
So I have immense confidence on the ETF. I think there's 11 different filings pending with the SEC to launch ETFs from everybody from Bitwise to Franklin Templeton and a whole bunch of people in between. I think those will be live in the second half of this year. We have seen even outside the United States, you have live ETPs. And at a time when a lot of outflows are exiting some of the crypto ETFs, you're seeing inflows into XRP. And I think that's because you had this false negative pressure from the SEC, this kind of an exogenous hand holding things down that's now being released. And that's great for the market. That's great for builders within the XRP ecosystem globally.
One more on the stockpile.
Yeah.
How much XRP would be in it? Where does it come from?
Well, my understanding of what I read about I think there are some questions and that the devil may be in the details as Treasury implements some of this.
Absolutely in the details.
But my understanding is that the stockpile will be represented by seized other cryptos other than Bitcoin that then will be in that stockpile. So to the extent that various law enforcement agencies have seized cryptos, which would include XRP, that those would go into the stockpile in addition to the Bitcoin strategic reserve. That's my understanding.
We have been talking here about a big moment for you and for your company, of course, a rollback really of the tensions that had been brewing with the SEC. And let's talk about the next phase. One thing I'm really wondering about now that there's more clarity for you is that is an IPO, frankly, in your future now. We talk so much about the potential for the XRP token to be wrapped in an ETF. That is a method of listing. Right. So is listing possible now for you for Ripple?
Well, it's certainly something that is possible. The United States SEC under Gensler was so hostile to this industry. I mean, ironically, they approved the S1 from Coinbase and then sued them for doing the things they said they were doing. So this SEC, fortunately, is going to be, I think, very constructive and positive for this industry. So I think that's available, and I think the company's at a stage where we can consider that. That being said, it isn't a huge priority. I think most companies are going public. Raising capital is something that is high on their radar. We have been in a very fortunate position to be able to grow the business organically. We're also, frankly, more proactive in looking at acquisitions. This is an industry that finally is going to be able to thrive in the United States, the largest economy in the world. And I think the industry is still underestimating the shift from the headwinds to the tailwinds. That's going to make a bigger difference than people think. And finally, the U.S. market is really unlocked.
So it sounds like what you're saying, acquisitions are almost more of a priority now than an IPO for you. So then what would you be looking for to buy, and how big are you willing to go?
Well, I'm not going to name names, but look, Ripple at its core is a blockchain infrastructure company. We sell our technologies to business, primarily financial institutions, and we'll look at other things that are blockchain infrastructure companies. I think there will be consolidation this year. There's a lot of excitement about some of the changes, and we will lean into that for sure.
So when you think about what's possible in terms of financial institutions, there's been a lot of conversation about loosening of regulations and red tape when it comes to the financial industry and its interactions with the crypto community. What are you actually seeing happen? Are banks really warming up in a way that's significant right now?
I mean, I think unequivocally, yes. I mean, just in the last few weeks, I have seen U.S. financial institutions go from being like, look, we're just not going to touch it because we don't want the extra scrutiny of the regulators, which again, may or may not have even been legal, given these are legal businesses. But you have large banks who used to say negative things, now saying positive things. I think the two areas you'll see the most activity in the short term, one is around custody. These are banks that want to be able to custody, particularly when you see real world assets being tokenized. You need to be able to safely manage and custody that for customers and potentially for the bank. And the second is around payments. I mean, the global payments infrastructure still remains very dated. Wires are slow. I just had a wire that was sending over euros disappear for 5 days. That's surprising in a world of the internet.
So one part of that payments infrastructure that I'm watching really closely is, of course, stablecoins.
Sure.
There is starting to be more clarity in Washington, and you're seeing people starting to use stablecoins in really interesting ways. I think about Robinhood, for example, using stablecoin in terms of facilitating 24-hour trading. What's next? I mean, if you think about the next forefront of stablecoins now that the U.S. is getting toward clarity, what's possible?
Well, I think we're underestimating how big that might get. Today that market's about $230 billion. So I think some smart people think that may go up 10x in the next 5 years. I think that's probably right. I mean, the two leading players in Tether as well as USDC are both, I think, poised to do well in that market. Ripple launched our own stablecoin at the end of last year. That's already ahead of our own internal forecasts in terms of where we are at this point in the year. Still, we're small, but the goal is by the end of the year for RLUSD, Ripple's stablecoin, to be one of the top 5 in the market by the end of the year. And I think the whole market's going to grow dramatically over this year.
So what does it take you to get there? Who are you pairing up with? Are you creating some financial partnerships in order to make RLUSD more of a household name?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even today we had more listings go live for RLUSD on some global crypto exchanges. Anytime you do something new, it takes a minute for that kind of, the pun of the ripple effect of seeing how that plays out. And so we're seeing that happen in real time. So I'm really pleased. And again, as I said, we're ahead of our Q1 forecasts of where we expect it to be. So we feel really good about that progress.
Given through what you have gone through with the SEC, I think one major question is how tokens list in the future. What do they mean? How are they classified? Now that you're talking about many other, say even private equity companies looking to tokenize their funds, venture capitalists, Cathie Wood told us yesterday she's considering that for her own fund. What does this mean? What are the rules of the road? Are people going to list and put the cart in front of the horse as they do so? Yeah.
Well, look, I think tokenizing, like what Cathie Wood's talking about, democratizing access to different investment vehicles and different investment types is very compelling. Even, imagine Shark Tank enabling the participation by different sharks. Like, there's some really interesting stuff you could do. Right now, Congress, it seems, is more focused on getting stablecoin legislation passed. That went for markup last week, and I think you'll see that potentially in front of the president in weeks. The other piece of legislation I think will move quickly after that is kind of the market structure bill. Last summer, something called FIT 21 passed the House, did not get through the Senate. I think that a market structure bill like FIT 21 will come before Congress. Hopefully before the summer recess, we'll see that pass also.
But you think about how many exchanges are now looking to loosen their listing standards already on the heels of lighter oversight, and the cart before the horse question. Do you think that people are getting a little ahead of themselves and listing things that shouldn't be listed?
Well, look, I don't think about it as lighter regulation because, frankly, I think the industry wants to be regulated. And what we've been saying for years as an industry is we just want clear regulation. We don't want lawsuits just claiming one thing and the next week contradicting themselves, which is exactly what Gensler's SEC was doing. So I think just the fact that we have an SEC who's trying to work constructively, instead of trying to sue more companies, let's actually work and let's codify and get legislation to provide that clarity.
But again, if you don't have that clarity, what you saw years ago was an ICO boom where tons of things that were raising money never worked out for the people that were buying the tokens or the coins.
Look, I agree, and I said then that I think of some of these ICOs were a lot more like IPOs. They were securities. The problem is the SEC then kind of used that to just blanket and say, I mean, well, Gensler said before he was SEC chair, he didn't think they were securities. And then after he became SEC chair, is kind of his power grab. Gensler wanted everything under his jurisdiction. So I think obviously that ICO boom went away, and there's lots of ways this government can regulate and manage fraud and manage criminal activity. And that did happen. People did go to jail.
I have one more question for you about Ripple and XRP in particular, on the supply and how it's managed and the unlocks. Is there anything you would do to change the amount of supply brought to market? Can you do that? How does that exactly work? Because there is a level of dilution for XRP when more supply is brought in on a regular basis.
So this is one of the things I'm glad you asked about, because there's frankly misinformation, sometimes disinformation, people spreading falsehoods out there. The amount of XRP that was created in 2012 when it was first started, when that blockchain was first started, was 100 billion units. That can't be increased. It's slightly deflationary, and now there's about 99.9 billion units. Ripple owns about 42% of that supply. We have had, and for, I guess, 8 years, we published something called the XRP Markets Report, where we share how much we are introducing into the market, because we want that to be predictable. And that has been the case for many years now. And so we will continue to make sure that's very predictable. At some point, maybe we won't be selling as much. We'll see how that plays out in the future. But right now, frankly, we get criticized for owning too much, and then we're criticized for selling some. But we want to do that in a constructive way, which is what we've done for years.
That's interesting. I hope it's not too long. I'm sure I'm going to get copy striked for this particular live stream. But who knows? Who cares, right? I mean, I see CCP is coming. Chinese Communist Party. Appreciate you. All right. Yes, giving some love. Okay, so with that though, I know it's a long-winded interview, but I think it's much needed because, again, there's a lot of misinformation out there about this chain. Of course, I feel like Ripple has been very transparent with what they do. When you have to do your own research, obviously. Of course, I seemingly this guy is a good guy. I don't know. I'm hoping he's not like evil, intended to trap us all into a digital prison or anything. But this is what solving problem is all about, right? If you could, build something that people will need, that's the spirit of capitalism that we want to promote. And so, when you put money into something like that, companies like that, that help facilitate something to be faster and all that stuff. So, creating more value for you and hopefully the rest of the world, right? So the value that Ripple Lab is bringing is for the banks. Yes, the banks will have their own private ledger. Okay, that's also being explained by them too. That it's a bit technical. Obviously, it's going to take so long for me to explain all of that. So make sure to do your own research. But as far as the XRP ledger itself, it cannot be corrupted, right? So yes, if you build something on, let's say GME wants to build their own platform, right? They could tokenize their own stuff and make their own rule on that platform. And so yes, if they want to claw back, your token, they could put a clause in there where, hey, if you transact on this platform, there's a chance that, if there's, you're not allowed to do certain things. Okay. So with that rule being in place, obviously people could pick and choose, okay, what platform you want to put your money in and what type of rules and regulation on that platform itself. Just like how X on Meta, right? You couldn't say certain things, right? And so because you're using their platform, you're not allowed to do certain things. So the same way, you're not allowed to transact to a certain group of people, for example, right? But as far as XRP go, if you have XRP, you cannot claw back XRP. Let's say I send it to Carter, right? I cannot then claw back my my transaction because I'm administrator in that transaction. So again, only administrator could claw back that token being sent to a certain member of that particular token. Particular platform. So that's the misconception there, where XRP is decentralized, is centralized, and all that stuff. No, that's not true. But yes, you have the ability to create your own internal interbank, like Carter was saying, interbank platform there. Yeah, and like he was saying, banks are now looking into doing their own token, a stable coin. And when that happens, obviously, depends on what stable coin you're using. You're at the mercy of that. That could, again, good or bad, right? If you don't support a certain bank, you don't want to use their token, and that's going to hurt them in the end. So if they don't promote, free transaction, I'm hoping that people are not going to be willy-nilly, using their products, so that hopefully not enslaving us all. You could do a lot of things when it comes to like programming money, right? And so these people have been talking about it for decades, ever since blockchain has been kind of promoted. They've been probably working on it for quite some time to hone on their craft to be able to do that. But again, it's a system of control for sure. But as long as you understand, like what platform to use, and understand, okay, if I use this platform, this is what I get. I'm hoping it's not too deceiving to where, all of the rules and regulation is be transparent, and you know what you get yourself into. And you could opt out of it anytime that, your asset is not going to be seized. So again, that's why freedom is so important, you guys. I'm telling you. Without the freedom of speech, they could technically, if, the government doesn't like you, right? They could freeze your asset in that sense too. So that's a scary world for sure. Even Trump was kind of unbanked, because they try to get him out of the political space, right? So, if a billionaire couldn't have the freedom to transact, then there's no hope for all of us peasant around here. So it's kind of scary. But hopefully, good will prevail at the end. Freedom lover people, come on. Stand together, huh? Okay. All right, let me just get off of my soapbox over here. Okay, so he mentioned Paul Atkins here. Oh, what's happening over here? So Paul Atkins has been talking, this is like 10 years ago when he was talking about, this is when they were trying to form the plunge protection team. And he's just trying to explain that it really, this is not a good situation to be in, but again, they implement it anyway, right? They really work together to prop up, try to stabilize the price. And in this particular lecture over here, or speech, he was just saying that is not a good thing for the market, because market should be free, right? Because it's very difficult to predict human behavior, okay? And these people, who create that plunge protection team, they think that they could control everything, right? And when you are controlling it tightly, you end up, favoring one over another, and eventually, it becomes imbalance. It's not natural, because then you have more and more problem to solve. and then it become, trillions of dollars when it should be $1 billion problem, right? And so that's the problem that we have right now. It's because these people who thinks that they could control the market did that willy-nilly, printing money. It's like, oh, okay, all we have to do is just print more. It's like there's no consequences there. That's what they would love you to think, right? But again, this is the argument he was trying to say here. So, and he was correct in saying that, because we're seeing it right now where, we can't even, go a year without printing money. And I'm telling you, this is why, we have the debt that we have. It's because without money creation based on debt, the market's going to crash, because it's been 10 years worth of, manipulation in that sense, right? Of course, depends on what you're getting yourself into. Obviously, bonds and all that stuff, municipal bond, teacher pension fund and all that stuff has been kind of talked about, how they don't actually intended to pay off the bond debt. They only intended to create more bond in order to pay off the old bond. So of course it's a Ponzi scheme for sure. And no wonder you see a lot of teacher, what is it called? School just going out bankrupt, like outright don't have money for anything, because you have all this administrative nightmare of people just signing off on bonds and stuff. But there's a gentleman who talked about it. I forgot, a real estate mindset or something like that. I forgot his name. But I'll find that video later. But my point is that, again, they create all this complexity in order to control the price of the market so that it doesn't, ever crash down to correct itself. Again, they do that to protect themselves. They're not doing that to protect you and I, to protect the people that are, at least, what is it, trying to make money on the downturn. But the point is that, he was saying that it's not natural for that to happen, and people should choose, to have the freedom to choose whatever investment, and they should be aware of what they're investing in. So he's promoting free market, situation here. And so yes, people are gonna lose some money here, and there's no easy way out here, for sure, because it's a market, right? You have to understand, okay, what you investing in, and then transparency. That's what he's promoting. Oh, hi. Well, I mean, very honored that you think I could teach you something. Not really, though. I'm sure you know most of this already. Okay, so Paul Akin, I'm sure, again, promoting with the free market way of thinking, it's going to break something. And I know, the market's going to be, we've been predicting the stock market coming down because of the over leverage already. I mean, Moran's talking about it extensively. So with Paul Akin, obviously, I feel like it's going to clean up some of the mess. But again, it's going to be painful. It's going to be painful. And I'm hoping, of course, with GME, because it's so closely related to SPY and the fear and the sentiment of the market, it's gonna come down with it as well. Okay, but I'm telling you, the price is coming down, but the company is gonna be fine. And so if you see the price coming down because of the fear, people, it's like, oh my God, the scary part is still here because of the tariffs and all that stuff. It's going to cascade even down faster. And so that fear is real, you guys. I'm telling you, you see it on Corona, right? Back in the corona time, if you look at the chart, it's gonna scare you. I mean, I wasn't in the market that day. Thank goodness, I would have had a heart attack. But right here. Wait, is that after corona? Like this is when it was like reported, right? And so let's see how much. Like 30% in SPY. I mean, that was the scariest time, right? And again, I think this is why the Fed freaked the hell out and print $2 trillion just like that, because they couldn't catch it, and maybe this is where the short interest of GME comes from too, is because again, like they feel so confident that everybody's gonna go under, right? But what they didn't expect is that the Federal Reserve just print $2 trillion just like that, and people will be okay with that, right? And so when you print like 40%, remember that was 40% of all the money supply was printed back then, and still continue. And then that's when they go to the public and say it was transitory and all that stuff, right? And of course, nobody believed in it. At the time, I was a bit too naive. I didn't know much about the Federal Reserve and learning it as much as I should have, right? I would have been like, okay, if they're printing money, of course I'm going to buy over here. There's no fear, right? And typically it's happening again. Like, let's see if I could, I think it's the money supply here. M2 money supply, right? It's really giving you at least a correlation of some sort, right? Hold on. So, I wonder if it were algorithm, maybe? No, that's too much. Percentage? No. Let me try regular. No. That's terrible, you guys. Okay, well, I don't know, but you could see like anytime money supply goes up, right? Straight up, of course, it's going to follow. So M2 money supply goes up, and then a couple months later, the stock market goes up. And then when they're trying to taper off, right, you could see the rolling right here. And then the stock market kind of rolling too. Okay. And then now when you see a little bit perking up again, and the Fed just said that he's going to slow down the pace of tightening. They've been doing that already. So even slower than this, it's going to taper off over here. So, I mean, I'm thinking it's going to be like this, right? And they're going to taper off. Next year, that's when you're supposed to be scared. Again, that's why people are investing based on this, because if they stop buying assets, right, propping the companies up, the company that has a lot of debt, a lot of burdening, senior notes, I'm sure AMC is gonna be gone by then. Companies that doesn't have any, ways to grow. I think again, technology companies gonna do worse in this time period, because unless they could integrate blockchain in some way, trading volume and all that stuff to try to increase their profit margin with the bank. I don't know. I think that the next growth stage is gonna come from blockchain tokenization for sure, for the banks anyway. But for companies like Nvidia, I know Nvidia is kind of like trade based on Bitcoin cycle as well. So of course, I've been kind of thinking about Nvidia in that sense too. I think most of it comes from that pump as well, where Bitcoin is kind of going up because they do make chips that is specific to mining Bitcoin. So some of that movement comes from that. Of course, massive amount of movement comes from they pumping each other up too. So mark to market accounting, all of that combined. So if Bitcoin goes up in price, obviously Nvidia just will go up a little bit more. But as far as like all-time high again, I don't think it's gonna go all-time high. Let me see, Nvidia. But I haven't taken a look at the price. Okay, let me take this off. Okay. Okay, so 100. Really? $200? Okay, yeah. So down to $100 right now. Trillions of dollars lost. Nobody said anything. It's like, it's just $1 trillion. No big deal. People, right? Okay, let me do it regular. All right, so 118. So it's closer to its original here. But I really think this gap's gonna fill, you guys. Look at this gap right here, down here. Ooh. I mean, that'd be crazy, right? So that gap eventually is gonna fill, okay? So look out for that. Of course, this would be the opportunity to buy back in. Will it happen next year or the next coming year? Of course, again, like these type of thing could go out anytime. Okay, 93 cents per per share. That's like abysmal, you guys. So yeah, we'll see. But look at this. Like I feel like, okay, they do pose a lot of good earnings, I guess, But does it really warrant the valuation that they get right now? I don't think so. Price to earnings and all that stuff. Of course, all of this is just hype on the other side of it. But yeah, I'm looking for that gap, you guys. So $30, yeah. It's more along the line of that price right there, $30. I know I'm gonna get flack for that, but oh well. So Paul Akin, go back to Paul Akin. I'm very excited to see how he's gonna govern in that, and of course, again, cryptocurrency. Obviously, I want a free, level playing field type thing. So let's listen to him a little bit here, and of course, like with him too, he addressed a lot of naked shorting and all that stuff, and he's not a fan of it. Hopefully, he could address that market as well. That certain rule has to be enforced. The reg show and all that stuff has to be enforced really tightly. Hopefully he's gonna put a clause in there that will at least clean up the market a little bit here, right? That if the stock is coming down, you're not supposed to be what is it, uptick rule or something like that. If the stock comes down, you're not allowed to short it or something like that. So at least enforce that rule, and then if people break that rule, you have to take the license away from them. It's just like alcohol license. It's very simple, you guys. Like, enforcing this type of rule is gonna keep the market more fair, right? So that market participant could be sure that when they're placing orders, they're placing it fairly, that people would be treated fairly. Doesn't matter whether you are an institution or not. You get the same price level. So as long as we don't have that, of course, we're not going to be able to, appreciate our share in a fair manner.
We have this construct, and it's a very creaky construct, with respect to financial services regulation, lots of different players, lots of costs that are added, lots of ways in which the rules impede financial innovation. But so that's one reason why the SEC, should be there, with its ear to the ground to figure out, okay, which way are things moving, and let's try to accommodate activity that's not criminal, and then enable markets to flourish. Because if it challenges incumbents, and it helps to bring down costs for investors and for people who are trying to raise capital, I mean, that's the reason why we have financial markets.
See, again, he's talking about like free market, right? And the competition creates a opportunity for newcomers to solve problem at a cheaper price. What do you have right now? You don't have that. It seems like everything you have, owns, or have to get go up in price. You know why? Because they're monopoly in that. People just keep increasing the price, and we're like, oh yeah, I'll pay for that. It's like, well, I have to. It's like, well, why? Is there nobody in the world could figure out how to do this cheaper than it used to? Of course there are. It's just that they don't have the opportunity to do that, because they were cornered by, these type of practices. And of course, the same perpetrator in the market that are supposed to be there to create capital for all of the company are there to take away from them. Okay? And now these are the market makers, the hedge funds. Okay? Of course, I'm not trying to accuse anyone, but it's just the structure that seemingly is happening right now. And so you have the SEC, who doesn't do anything to promote that growth in innovation. And hopefully, as an SEC chairman, he's gonna, keep his word there, where he's gonna promote, innovation in that companies like GME, for example, if they're able to, fill the vacuum, fill the gap of, collectible items, that they could do so without any challenge, okay, from the legal side, from the trading side, right? Stock price really doesn't matter for the company unless they want to raise money, okay? So currently, we have all the money that we need to survive. So again, whatever the stock price is doing, it really doesn't matter until we need the money. And so, thank goodness we don't need the money as a company. So of course, that's why I keep saying it's less risky. But on top of that, though, when the company is trying to raise money, of course, it's seemingly at the best opportunity, and with the smart dilution. I hate that term too, because like when people talk about smart dilution, right, you think about AMC, but it's not. Ryan Cohen is actually doing the smart dilution here, because he only dilute when the volume is high, and like high demand for the stock, right? Otherwise, why would we be able to raise $4 billion in just 2 months, you guys? Like, that's amazing. And people don't realize that. It's like, well, how can you do that? Because typically, with markets like this, with small company like this, you don't get that. The stock price would have been like $1 at that rate. But to be able to raise $4 billion from that, 3 offerings, right? Yeah, it was 3 offerings. in a short period of time is amazing. It's just a testament of how many people actually are interested in buying. Now, whether they're buying for the right reason or not doesn't matter. It's what matters is that we raised that amount of money, and now we're able to survive and thrive till the future. So, yeah, testimony to people who are holding on to this, and I'm included in that, obviously. I just recently got my consolidation of both accounts, so I'm able to see my cost average, and it's actually higher than I thought, you guys. Let me see. So I consolidate my Roth IRA to one account, and so combine right now. Hold on, I'm opening up the app here on my phone. So it's $34.72. Unfortunately, I keep saying it was 25, right? So let's see. Let me show you the level. But of course, this is my moon back, you guys. So of course, I don't care. Of course, I'm going to add more as time goes on, when I have more money, obviously. So my cost average is $34.72. Wonk, wonk, wonk. So I'm pretty close. I mean, pretty close. So currently with that, I'm down there. So it just means that I don't add enough at the bottom, you guys. I thought I had add enough over here. But again, I went all in way too quick, and I should have been more methodical like Moran's, doing it slowly, small amount. But at the time, again, I had a large sum that I was like, oh, I'm gonna, be here for a while anyway. So let me just put everything in Gamestop at the time. Of course, ever since then, I've been accumulating. But let's see. Yeah, I remember buying it at this level and then add a little at a time. But yeah, so with this one, thank goodness I have amount in which I was able to max out 1 year. So and then this year I'm waiting to see if I could invest in, because like there's a income level in which I couldn't do it anymore. Now if I sell a lot of crypto, which I'm planning to, that's why I'm waiting this year to max out at the end. So after that though, I might take a year off. Depends on how much I could make in the crypto land. I haven't been going on any vacation lately, so I'm like, okay, let me treat myself a little bit here, just before I turn old and unable to go places. I mean, you've got to treat yourself sometimes. So, but yeah, so I'm planning a vacation for the next year. Yeah, just a short vacation, nothing fancy. And I hope I would be able to do that. Of course, like it depends on how much I'm able to make in this year. Splurge a little bit. Okay, so there you go. So that's my cost average. So it's a little bit higher than Moran's. It's okay. No harm, no foul. You win some, you lose some. But I mean, as far as like share amount though, I feel like I'm pretty on par with Moran's. Pretty good. So I have a little bit more than Moran's, but I'm sure he's gonna catch up pretty soon. So, but again, this is the Roth IRA, so I have tons of time to add more as time goes on. There is a limit for sure. I think the current limit is $7,000, and they increase every year, you guys. So so check before you contribute into the Roth. So I mean, why Roth? Because it's tax-free, right? And you could take out the contribution tax-free too, because you already paid tax on that. And the growth from the Roth will be tax-free by the time you retire, which is 59 and a half, okay? So by then, I'm sure GME is going to do very well. So, you know, I would be cashing out then. But again, like if you know, earnings, it goes to like $1,000, of course I'm gonna X out real quick, right? And then just try to buy it back at $100 or so, right? And then just ride that wave again. I mean, you know, that would be a dream, right? A dream for sure. Now, of course, but seriously though, this earnings is so important. But again, don't hang everything on it either, because they could fake you out, okay? Because listen, this earning was a good earning. I'm telling you, yes, they're trying to fake you out that, oh, you know, it's missed by 25%. That's BS. That's BS, okay? Because it's overestimation for sure. But this was the positive earnings that didn't happen for the last 7 years of the company. So that was the first positive fourth quarter. So it was monumental. And then what did you see happen after? Like that, right? So they can still bring you down to try to scare more people for 2 years. And then they're going to run a lot of negativity. I'm telling you, the news cycle is like that. You know, tariffs or, oh, you know, whatever. There's a, you know, data of high inflation, whatever, right? They could do a lot of things to scare retail and to say, and then on top of that, you have like retail apocalypse, right? Running that negative news. And then when you least expect it, it's going to turn the other way, right? Because again, depends on what the earnings is. If it's positive, obviously, that could also be one of the tactic too. It just spike it a little bit after hours, Tuesday, and then drop you back in to this level right here. And then that's when the institution's gonna accumulate more and more too. So yeah. Again, I mean, you have to understand the game, right? And the game is to misdirect the maximum amount of people. That's why max pain exists, okay? For that reason, because it depends on where you bet, and you know, the call option buyer, the put option buyers gonna come into this stock. During earnings time. Usually that's what happened. Volume coming, maximum volume come in. Maybe that's the meme that Ron Kitty was trying to allude to, is maximum volume is coming. And just to prepare for it, right? When? I mean, you know, in 3 trading days, for sure. Hey, Lionel, what's up? I want to go. What? Don't bet on the demise of this stock, Lionel. I know. $10 is enticing. I get it. I mean, didn't you hear me say that my cost average is up here, Lionel? What the heck? Oh my God. But yeah, so hey, you know, go crazy. If you think $10 is possible again, I don't think so. I mean, it has to be impossible, right? But again, that could be the triple tap. that would bring this company back up to the stratosphere. Who knows, right? I mean, will it happen though? Will it happen? I don't know. Anything could happen at this point, you guys. So be aware, be vigilant. Look out for the narrative, right? The narrative is strong. Like I said, that's why they play on that fear so much. But as long as you know what you hold, know what you're buying into, the company's doing well, straight up balance sheet is what you want to kind of ground yourself in for sure. Okay, so let's see. Do I even want? Oh wow, 2 hours. Crazy. Just got into your show. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It's okay. I know. You don't really care about the show anyway, so it's okay. One friend that I have, Nah, just kidding. I'm sure you play back later.
The Dodd-Frank Act be adopted. So one of the provisions of Dodd-Frank is Title I, and it's called financial stability. And it's no surprise that what was born out of this was there was an idea, let's get all the smart people in the room, and they can think deep thoughts, peer into their crystal balls into the future, and they will be able to prick financial bubbles before they come about. Well, I think this is just a fool's errand, frankly, because you cannot get enough information and enough smart people in the room to be able to figure this out. And Friedrich von Hayek pointed this out very well in his very last book, which he called Fatal Conceit. And he said the fatal conceit in Washington is that you can get enough smart people in the room and get enough information, and they will be able to outwit the billions of people who are literally transacting on a daily or every second basis. So what was born out of this was the idea, well, let's get the heads of the various regulators together. They can talk about what's going on. They can share experiences, and they can try to coordinate what their activities of their various agencies are. So there was born this thing called the Financial Stability Oversight Council. There's the keyword stability. It's kind of like what had gone on before in the wake of long-term capital management in the late 90s. That was a hedge fund that blew up and created a bit of instability in the financial markets. But what was born out of that was called the President's Working Group on Financial Markets. It was kind of a chatting session where the heads of the SEC, CFTC, the Fed, and other regulatory agencies got around to talk about their various approaches. This basically put that on steroids and put a general framework in the statute around it, gave the Treasury Secretary the chairmanship of the agencies of this particular group, and gave them a veto power over what this group would decide about. And this group can direct individual agencies to do different things, and we've seen that here recently with respect to money market mutual funds, which I won't necessarily go into now, but that's an example of how this group can drive the policy of a particular agency, in that case the SEC. So basically, as you notice here, most of the people around the table, a majority of them are bank regulators. There's one insurance representative. The federal government doesn't regulate insurance companies, the states do, but the statute gives the president the authority to appoint an insurance representative. In this case, Roy Woodall used to be the Kentucky insurance state regulator. So the FSOC basically is very secretive. Their meetings are not open to the public. They have very broad powers. They can declare companies, financial companies that are non-banks and not necessarily regulated by any of these particular agencies to be problematic, and they have abilities to regulate them almost on an ad hoc basis. If you are designated by this particular group to be a significant financial institution and you want to dispute that designation, because then you get you will be subject to regulation by the Fed, which is, of course, one of the members of it. You have very limited judicial recourse. You can go to the courts and protest, but the judge is prohibited by statute to look at why the agency, why the FSOC designated it. They can only look, the judge can only tell if the agency acted in an arbitrary and capricious manner, which is a very narrow ambit for the judge to look at. Because the Treasury Secretary is the head of this particular group, it really then gives the White House direct control over what had been up to now independent agencies in Washington, the SEC, CFTC, the Controller of Currency, and others.
It seems like the regulators are in on this, right? They try to regulate the market, and again, this is called price fixing. Like they're not there to facilitate free market here. No, they're just there to manipulate you into, doing the wrong thing, it seems, right? And so again, to gather their own, self-serving type thing. Of course, like these are bankers, right? And so, of course, like, the rationale is that they don't want any drawdown so that they, could continue to do the same thing over and over again. And my point is that if they're for the good of the people, why are the debt is so high, right? So again, if these smart people, they look into the crystal ball, like it was saying, and could determine when to pop the bubble. Why is the bubble in the debt market, right? So again, whether these people are actually doing it for the betterment of society or doing it for the betterment of themselves, whoever at that particular group get richer and richer while the rest of the public is just getting poorer and poorer, right? So these type of things need to be done for, but again, I don't know how to fix it. Obviously, it's gonna cause a whole bunch of calamity, and perhaps this is why the SEC feels so, hopeless or useless at some point in time, because again, all they could do is just to recommend. I guess they don't even have the ability to arrest people or anything like that. They just could only report malfeasance to the DOJ, right? The Department of Justice here, and they or the FBI, right? If they see somebody acting capriciously or whatever the term is, he was saying. So if you want to finish up this particular speech, you could do that. I'm not going to go through everything, obviously. I'm kind of feeling pooped out at the moment, so I'm at my limit over here. I don't know how Morans do it every day, like sometimes like 3-4 hours. But hey, I'm getting there. I mean, 2 hours is pretty good, I feel like. But yeah, I mean, it's worth kind of studying Paul Atkin for sure, because he's gonna come up in next week, right? Being approved or coming up, because he's not confirmed quite yet, and I think that's why like some of the something that related to XRP, the ETF hasn't been kind of approved in that sense. So I think that's going to be the next wave of bull market for crypto. Now, this particular interview also is a good one to look into because it's related to crypto. If you're, want to learn more about that. I know, it's not a cup of tea for some of you. I understand that. But hey, as long as you educate yourself, whether you're involved in it or not, it's still a good information to get into. I'm not trying to promote any, do what you want with your money, obviously, right? For me, of course, like XRP gonna do well or worse with or without you, right? Participating in it, because again, if you don't realize a potential of something, even in GME too, you're not going to realize it until you look into it. whether it's a bad investment or not, that's up to you to decide, because that's what the point of the free market is all about. Crypto have utility for sure. Is it going to be valued based on the utility that it could provide? Yes, it's coming. Currently, everything is based on speculation, with the exception of a few coins out there. Yes, all of the meme coins and all that stuff, pump and dump, exists. Scams are everywhere, even in the regular market, not just the crypto market. It's just that crypto market is just much more wild, wild west, right? No regulation. Now regulation is here. It's going to happen, and GME is going to be able to build on that foundation as well. So that building part is coming. That growth part is coming, within the next 4 years or so. Depends on how many, market cap? No. Depends on what GME is going to do on the NFT marketplace part. I think the growth is coming from that. Right. So, and again, like, they could make a platform like eBay, for sure, like eBay. It's a crypto market. Just be the middleman, right? Every transaction go through GME, the same thing as the platform was, and promoting people. Just again, low cost, low expenses. You just need to keep up the website on 24/7 so that people could go out and trade on it, right? Trade their NFT, trade their currency, or whatever they wanted to trade, or even create meme coins that related to GME, like Buck the Bunny, for example, mascot, right? Currently, there are cryptos out there that is trying to mimic the likeliness of GameStop. Obviously, those are not legit because they're not from the company itself, but I'm talking about when it is legit, when it is regulated. And yeah, GME is going to participate for sure. Like, I can't see them not getting involved in crypto. I mean, it would be crazy not to. So, so the opportunity is here. We have a lot of, legislation to come out of the White House, obviously. And you have the first crypto president. That's big. I mean, I don't care if people are like, oh, it's a nothing burger. It's like nothing is going to happen. The stockpile, they're not even buying into it. No, just promoting it. And even, yes, the Fed may not be buying, but the state level, they are talking about buying it, and more. I forgot which one was promoting it now. I know Texas had their legislation try to put through buying, Bitcoin as a reserve. So that's one. And the floodgate is going to open. Obviously, MicroStrategy has been kind of promoting that. So understand that too. The game theory, right? Whoever get in the first and, able to accumulate Bitcoin as much as you can, because there's a supply shock coming. There will only be 5% more of Bitcoin would be mined, adding to. So you're competing for the 5% right now. And there's not enough billionaires out there who would be able to own one Bitcoin right now. So that's how scarce it is. There was a poll that was done on X, and apparently 80%, 86% of people would say that they don't want to invest in Bitcoin. So if you buy Bitcoin, you are the 14% right now. 14%. So you're very early, even at this price point. I'm telling you. So, and that makes me think, right? What if we do a poll for GME? What would be the ratio out there? And I'm sure it's around the same, right? Would you hold GameStop for a long term or not? So I would say like 10% of people who are actually holding on. But it may be more. It may be more. Who knows, right? So I don't have the ability to do that poll. I hope Morantz could do that poll. That would be great because he has a lot more, population size. But anyway, so that's that. All right, guys. I think I'm pooped out at the moment. I hope you learned something new, or just, get or fall asleep while I'm talking. I mean, that's possible too, right? But anyway, so yeah, thank you for joining. Yeah, be on the lookout for good stuff to come. I mean, 3 more trading days of price action that you might see today. They might just keep it, low until the end. Who knows? All right, guys, I will let you go, and I will see you when I see you.